That is basically my yeah. He's terrible. And then Brenda's
Okay. So different types of factoring. We're going to give like an example of the type and then kind of what it looks like. I'll do kind of an example of each kind. This, you won't be able to use this for the test. This will be something you want to study for Wednesday, but this would be a great thing to save for when we make our note card for the exam. So if you guys recall last semester, we got to make a note card for the exam and it's a half a sheet, front side and back. Yep, so for exams. But this is just for you guys to study this week, and then after that you guys can put it on your note card. So, one of the things I want to remind you guys, so we'll start with this is, so again, this is our factoring chart. Now, just a reminder that it will always tell you guys to factor for these problems. So, you'll never be like, how do I know when to factor? It's going to say factor very clearly on the problem. So this whole chart is going to be our factoring chart. These two little bullet points or little asterisks, they remind you to always try to look for a GCF first. So before you do any of these types of factoring, look for a GCF first. And I'm just going to do a little example of GCF factoring up here. So before I even try to get into any of these types, I would try to find that GCF first. So like a problem like this, if you see that, before you try to do any of these 4 different types we're going to talk about, look for that GCF. Or even a problem that looks like it should be a certain kind, you want to still check for a GCF first. What's our GCF in this case? 2, and then also a x to the second. So you can factor out a 2x to the second. We'll be left with 2x, just to the first, because 3 minus 2, minus 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then the x squareds would cancel. So that would be considered the GCF factoring. So the different types of factoring, I'm going to try to give you kind of like what it would look like. So if you saw it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I expected that to be the case. So the first one we're going to talk about is difference of squares. And the main clue with this one is it's 2 terms. But it also needs to be subtraction. And then remember, this is the one that's perfect squares. And I'll write the little square root symbol just to remind you of perfect square root. So it's called the difference of squares. You don't have to know the name of it, so I'm not going to write that down so you don't get yourself all bent out of shape about trying to memorize a name. Hello. A little bit later, I have to have Miss Miller to show you pictures of our puppy. We got our puppy this weekend. I know, I bet. All right. I know. It's okay. So I'll put them up on the screen. When you have a chance, like to do like, you know. So remember guys, the difference of squares is the one where you just do the square root. So a times a gives us a squared. B times b gives me b squared. And then it's just a plus and a minus. So this one doesn't have many steps. There's some other ones where we'll fill the steps up completely, but this one's pretty straightforward, not too bad. And so I'll show you guys a little example of this kind. So I see here there's two terms. It's subtraction, and they both happen to be perfect squares. Now there's no GCF, 25 and 9 don't have a common factor, so we don't have to factor anything out. So this is the type that if you have trouble with knowing your perfect squares, you could use the little square root button on your calculator. Hopefully these are ones you know. But 25, what times what gives me 25? 5. And so it's going to be 5x and 5x. 5x times 5x gives me 25x to the second. And the 9 would be 3, so 3 and 3. And then I can just do plus and minus, minus and plus. It doesn't matter which one you do. That was probably one of the newest ones we learned. So that one might be one that you'll forget about more often. So we want to make sure we watch out for that as it comes up. Okay. We'll go to our next column. So cute. What's it? Oh. Yeah, she's not like that. I know, actually, Griffin refuses to put Mookie in her kennel because he's convinced she doesn't like him enough. So he's like, if I put her in there, she'll hate me. So Katie has to do it. So we just moved this weekend randomly, and she got away a couple times this weekend, and one of the times she chased geese across the field, she went way far away. She thought she was gonna catch them, and then the other time, I don't know how someone left the patio door open, and I was putting something in the bedroom, and I looked out the side window. I'm like, oh, we have a little animal. And I was like, oh my God, that's Mookie. So I ran outside. I yelled for everyone. I'm like, the dog is outside. And we go to grab her, and she's in the yard, which is wonderful. I go to grab her. She smells so bad. So she had gone somewhere and rolled in something. She smelled like cow manure. She'd slobber on her, so I don't know if she visited another dog, but there's cows a couple doors down from us. So Mookie's she's a farm girl now. She's, so she's so she was out on some sort of adventure. But she came back, so that was good. Yeah, that would have been. But she's she looks like she's a fawn color, so she looks like a deer. So I looked out in the yard and I was like, oh, we got an animal, and I was like, oh my God, that's my dog, and she's not on the leash. We got an invisible fence, but we haven't trained her yet on it. So, all right. So the next one is 3 terms. These next 2 are 3 terms, but this is the first of the 3 terms. This is the one you guys probably liked a little bit more, maybe. This is where the x squared doesn't have a number in the front. So the type is when there's no number in front of x squared. So we already know it has to be x times x. We like this kind because we only have to worry about those 2 pieces. We just say it multiplies to c, add to b. So it says multiply to c, add to b. So there's no number in front of that x squared. That's how you know you're using this type. So do an example. Has 3 terms. Again, there's no GCF, so don't forget to check for that GCF. This one doesn't have one. 3 terms. It has nothing in front of the x squared, so that's how I know already that we have to do x times x. And we know we want to multiply to a negative 28, but add to a negative 3. 28 is maybe one that you're a little rustier on your factors of. I feel like I haven't used 28 recently. 28. Can you come up with it? What's that? I thought I heard you. Figure it out? Yeah. -7, +4. 7 times 4 gives me 28. To get that -3, it has to be a -7 and a +4. Now, typically, you guys, I will try to give you ones that work. Every once in a while, sure, there could be like a typo and I meant for it to be something else and it didn't work. Like, I think there was one in your homework today that didn't work. So just a heads up on that. If you get a whole bunch on the test that aren't working, something's going wrong on your end. So maybe try like making sure you're doing the right process here, please. Why don't we do one more column and then we can take a break.
What are we gonna do for a break?
I think outside. You want to go outside? It's nice out.
Really? I couldn't tell.
I know. Couldn't tell it was sunshine and lovely.
It definitely isn't that obvious at all.
Okay, guys. The other type with 3 terms is the tougher one. This is the one that kind of feels a little like I just made this whole thing up. It's definitely a strange one, but I think you guys did pretty well with it. We'll definitely practice this a little bit more over the next couple of days. This time there is a number in front of the x squared. So this is the one where we have to do that x thing and we have to split the middle term.
Oh, this one was fun.
What?
This one was fun. That one was mildly easy as long as you didn't screw yourself up.
Well, right, and like it's one of those things that I think it'd be a hard one just to come up with, like if you don't practice it. Like this one definitely needs to be practiced and kind of just get used to the process of it, because it's not like we always say intuitive. That means you can just figure it out. It's definitely a tougher one. So if you guys recall, we made that x thing. Now don't forget, again, always check for that GCF. On the top, I multiply the first and last terms. Whoops. Let me fix that. I don't remember. So that says ax squared times c up there. On the bottom, I put the bx. And I want to multiply to get the top, add to get to the bottom, just like we've been doing. But then I use that to split the middle term up. So that middle term is going to be split up. We'll do an example here in a second. Okay, so let's try this one. This one you might need a little bit more space for, depending on how small you guys can write. It's hard for me to write small up here without you guys not being able to see anymore. So these I actually have to work them out ahead of time, otherwise I'm not positive they work, because there's lots of combinations that don't work. So I'm going to do my work down on the bottom, just because I'm not going to have enough space here, so I'm just going to put it down here. So I multiply that first and last term, so the 6x squared times 3. So I get 18x squared up there. On the bottom, I just put that middle term. So I want to multiply to 18, add to 11. Multiplies to 18, but adds to 11. 9 and 2. Again, just practicing and just trying these trial and errors, check and see if it works. So 9 and 2. So when I do this, I don't change the first or last term at all. I just split that middle term up. So this just breaks up as those two separate terms. The reason that's good is now this has 4 terms, and that means we're going to do grouping, which is actually going to be our last column. But hopefully you guys remember how to do that. So now we can group those. We can take out a 3x. Then out of the 2x plus 3, I can't take anything out, so I'm just going to take out a 1 kind of as a placeholder. Oh, sorry, that should be a 2 over here. 2x plus 3. So I have the same thing twice, that 2x plus 3. So I take that out. And then I'm left with, 3x plus 1. All right, so we'll take a little break here. Let me get this online.